Usually, when someone disappears, their absence is recognized pretty quickly. Friends, family, or coworkers usually notice that the individual's normal routine has been interrupted by their sudden vanishing. However, there are certain rare cases in which the individual's presence isn't a staple in normal everyday life. Their constant travel or hopping around from place to place make them a fleeting ghost. The only thing constant about these people is that their propensity to never stay in one place very long. Whenever these said individuals disappear, it may go unnoticed for weeks, months, or even years at a stretch, because their non-visibility was just seen as normal for their choice of lifestyle. Tonight on Dark Visions, we explore two fascinating cases of nomadic disappearances.
Samantha Bonnell was always a high-spirited girl. Growing up in the open expanse of Alaska, she embodied the untamed drive of the beauty and unpredictable nature of the northernmost state. Samantha was rocked by an uncertain home life when she was young, as her mother and stepfather had moved the family around, effectively uprooting her sense of stability. As a result, young Samantha was known to act out, giving her frustrations an outlet. It was a troubling streak that would be a key defining point of her personality, as noted by her mother Mary. If Samantha didn't like what was going on in her immediate environment, she'd simply pick up and leave. After a stint in rehab, Samantha seemed to turn over a new leaf. Her outlook seemed to mature slightly, and she began a course to set her life back on the right track by finding a job and attending night classes to obtain her GED. It was shortly thereafter that she was recruited into what Samantha saw as a new and exciting career path. The young woman joined a traveling magazine subscription sales crew where she would go door to door with several other young people. But for Samantha, the most exciting part was the innate travel. She'd get to experience new sights, sounds, and people. For her, it was a dream come true. A few weeks after joining the sales crew, she meets a young man named Chris, and the two hit it off instantly. Chris was attentive, loyal, and seemed to genuinely love Samantha a lot. Even though she was happy with her new relationship and job prospect in a general sense, the couple found the grind of going door to door to be a bit more than they had originally anticipated. Chris described the work as grueling, the entire crew relying on the sales numbers they had on any particular day to be determinant in whether or not they even ate for that night. Deciding that they needed a break and get off the road for a while, Samantha phones her mother for money in order that the couple could travel to Chris's parents' house and figure out their next move. Once there, they received a rude awakening, as Chris's mother would not allow the couple to stay for more than a few days. Seeing a little choice, Samantha and Chris decided to return back to their old magazine crew in Sacramento. Samantha again phones Mary to inform her of their plans to return to Sacramento. It will be the last time Mary ever speaks to her daughter. Once back in Sacramento, Chris and Samantha encounter a new employment opportunity. Two scouts recruit the young couple into a new subscription crew with better opportunities and better pay. Excited at the new prospect, Chris and Samantha jump at the chance and are driven to a nearby motel where the rest of their new crew is currently staying. That night, the new crew decide to head to a local movie theater. Samantha is happy to join them, but Chris, exhausted from their previous travel, chooses to stay in for the night. He kisses his girlfriend goodbye and tells her to go off and have a good time. He'll see her when she gets back. A few hours later, the crew make it back to the motel. But to Chris's surprise, Samantha is not with them. Several of the crew members relay a troubling story and tell Chris that in the middle of the film, Samantha suddenly got up crying and ran out of the theater for no apparent reason. Some of them said that after the movie, they had briefly searched for the young lady, but gave up after a time and decided to return to the motel. Chris is angered by their seeming lack of concern, but does believe their story. Chris frantically searches for Samantha at the theater and around the surrounding streets, but comes up empty. He questions several of the theater employees. However, they tell him that they don't recall seeing Samantha or have any memory of seeing someone running out of the theater in tears. Reluctantly, Chris returns to the motel, hoping against hope that his girlfriend is waiting for him. Sadly, she is not. Out of options, Chris phones Mary and tells her of the situation. However, Mary says that Samantha had a habit of suddenly running off whenever she was feeling uncomfortable. Mary also tells him that Samantha had an ex-boyfriend in a nearby city and that it was entirely possible she could have ran off to be with him. After hearing this, Chris is despondent, but is now much less frantic about Samantha's disappearance. He figures she has simply left him for someone else. About a week after Samantha's odd vanishing, Chris travels with the rest of the crew to Phoenix, and any further contact he has with Mary is suddenly halted. After a few days without hearing from her daughter, the troubling story that Chris had reported started to weigh heavy on Mary's mind. She begins to run down her contact list of everyone she had that she sporadically used to try and keep some kind of track of Samantha's movements. After exhausting this list and everyone telling her that Samantha has gone completely radio silent, Mary is now very concerned. Samantha was not known to keep out of contact with absolutely everyone. After 3 weeks of not hearing from Samantha, Mary rushes to try and file a missing persons report, but she is met with brick wall after brick wall. Because of the young woman's nomadic nature, no one police precinct feels they have jurisdiction and inform Mary that they cannot take the report. In desperation, Mary turns to the internet, trying to search for her daughter's credit history, social media presence, anything to try and get a fix on Samantha's whereabouts, but again comes up empty. When the holidays of the 2005 season come and go, Mary is now certain that something is very wrong. As a last resort, the beleaguered mother starts searching the endless corners of the Doe network. For nearly 3 months, Mary searches nearly 24 hours a day on the Doe network and other unidentified body websites in a desperate bid to try and find Samantha. In her own words, it became her secret prison. Another month goes by with no word when suddenly police in South Carolina contact her. A suitcase containing Samantha's name and several items of her clothing is mysteriously discovered in the driveway of a local resident. The resident is dumbfounded as to how the suitcase ended up in his driveway. Mary is shown several pictures of the suitcase and its contents, and she confirms that many items of the clothing are indeed her daughter's. The police in South Carolina mount an aggressive canvassing of the area where the suitcase was discovered, but again find no sign of Samantha. After detectives learn of Samantha's missing status and the fact that Mary had had such a struggle to even report her daughter as a missing person, they extend a helping hand and push Samantha Bonnell to the forefront of their case listing. Mary is relieved that she is finally receiving police aid in the search for her daughter and provides them with several identifying articles such as dental records and DNA samples. However, this jumpstart wouldn't last long, and Samantha's case once again turns cold. More than a year after the discovery of the suitcase, Mary again returns to the grisly task of searching through the Doe network. One night, she comes across an image that does seem vaguely familiar to her. As Mary reads the description of the young lady that was found deceased, there are some indicators that this might be Samantha, and then there were other factors that cast doubt. But nevertheless, it was a tantalizing lead that Mary has to follow up on. She emails the Doe's profile to Samantha's aunt, and she too thinks it bears a strong resemblance to Samantha. Mary quickly gets in touch with operators at the Doe network, and things move quickly from here. She learns that a filing error had prevented police from making this discovery themselves, and that the date on Samantha's missing persons report is the date that it was actually filed, some 6 months after the young woman had vanished. Mary quickly emails a scan of her daughter's dental records, and 2 weeks later, the heartbreaking results come back as a match. The Jane Doe is indeed Samantha Bonnell. Mary's 2-year odyssey in search for her daughter comes to a bittersweet end. Samantha was found without identification on a state freeway the night she is reported to have exited the theater. Several onlookers report that Samantha had run into traffic that night and been struck by several vehicles. She was found dead at the scene, and because of a lack of identification, she was entered into the Doe network. But although Samantha Bonnell had been finally located and her fate ascertained, the mystery isn't completely solved. The circumstances surrounding her untimely end are still hazy. Why had she frantically run out of the theater that night, and why had she recklessly run into oncoming traffic on a busy freeway in the dead of night? Was there someone chasing Samantha that police aren't aware of? To this day, Mary Ware continues to search for answers. She now knows where her daughter is and what happened to her, but the most important question lingers: why did it happen? Police respond to a devastating car wreck just outside of Emporia, Virginia. There are 2 confirmed victims. The driver, 21-year-old Michael Hager, was a student at the University of South Carolina. His passenger, whom police described as having red-dyed hair and wearing a Grateful Dead t-shirt, carried no identification. When autopsy officials searched the passengers' pockets, they found $1 in quarters, a yellow Bic lighter, and most significantly of all, 2 Grateful Dead ticket stubs. Located in his back pocket, police also found a scrawled note that reads,
Hey, Jason. Sorry we had to go. See you around, huh? Hey, call me. Signed, Carolyn T. and Carolyn O.
There was also a number scrawled onto the note, but it contained no area code. Using a variety of different area codes, the number was called, but led nowhere. The family of Michael Hager was quickly informed, and although distraught to hear of Michael's passing, they too could not identify who his mysterious passenger was. Additionally, there were no drugs or stimulants found in either Michael's or the unidentified passenger systems, leading police to believe that Michael had most likely fallen asleep at the wheel. The passenger's fingerprints were not on file, and no missing persons cases from around the area fit his particular description. Detectives then focused their attention on the 2 ticket stubs dated for the 24th and 25th of June, 2 days before the car crash. Tracing who had bought the tickets, they discovered that the buyer had then resold them to another man. This individual was very much alive and turned out to be a scalper. Police swiftly tracked the scalper down, but when questioned, the man had no recollection of who he had resold the tickets to. Facing a brick wall, the young unidentified passenger was then dubbed the Grateful Doe due to his t-shirt, tickets, and apparent love for the titular band. Beyond the name, police theorized that he was a so-called deadhead, a group of fans that obsessively follow the band around the country, and that he was a nomadic hitchhiker. Gleaning all they could from the limited evidence, investigators turned their attention to Michael Hager in hopes that something about him could shed light on just who his mysterious passenger was. During the morning of the crash date, Michael was visiting his fiancée in Fairfax County. He left her house at about 8 a.m., then stopped off at his father's house at around noon. His father had stepped out and just missed Michael. The young man then left a phone message and started to drive west. In the message, he told his father that he was on his way to visit his mother, but tragically, he would end up in the fatal car crash on the way. When police questioned neighbors of the elder Hager, they reported seeing another young man with Michael as he drove west. This is where the trail effectively ends, as the probing of Michael Hager brought them no closer to the passenger's identity. The police decided to release all the information they had compiled thus far to the public in hopes someone would recognize just who the young man was. Sadly, answers would not be forthcoming for the next 2 decades. A profile for the Grateful Doe was created on the titled Doe Network, and a dedicated thread for the case was launched on the site, Web Sleuths. The latter exploded with speculation and theories, and a small but dedicated group of armchair detectives had devoted themselves to the case. It was during this time that a promising lead would surface. A group known as the Wharf Rats was discovered that also followed the Grateful Dead. They were an intervention advocacy group that took it upon themselves to help their fellow deadheads kick the habit of drugs and alcohol. Interestingly enough, one of the heads of the group was named Caroline Thomas, a possible match for the Caroline T mentioned in the Grateful Doe's pocket note. When Miss Thomas was contacted, she relayed that she was not the woman mentioned in the note, but that she would pass along the information to her group. Unfortunately, this is where the momentum of the web sleuths stagnated, and it would take another 7 years before another significant break would come. In the spring of 2012, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, using all compiled data of reconstructive sketches and autopsy photos, they generated a clear and detailed computer mock-up of how the Grateful Doe most likely appeared when he was alive. Additionally, a Facebook page for the Grateful Doe case was set up the very same year, where the computer mock-up was enthusiastically shared. It wouldn't be till almost 2 years later that the case would really take off. One user created a collage of all the drawings, artists' renderings, and the Grateful Doe computer mock-up and posted it on the website Imager, along with a heartfelt plea to the public to finally give the Grateful Doe back his name. The post went viral, and hundreds of people joined the web sleuths and Facebook communities overnight, galvanizing the case. A significant lead came on the site Reddit, where a man claimed that he was roommates with a man named Jason during the summers of 1994 and 1995, and that this man matched the physical description of the Grateful Doe. To go even further, the roommate even submitted some photos he had taken with Jason during the time they shared the apartment. It seemed to be a dead ringer for the computer mock-up. Web sleuths were tantalizingly close to cracking the case, and they could feel it. As the story was continuing to go viral, a man browsing Facebook came upon the Reddit photos and immediately recognized them. He contacted his mother, one Margarita Evans. The man in the Reddit photos was none other than her son, Jason Callahan. Margarita posted her finding on the Facebook page, but it hadn't been confirmed yet. This still didn't prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that Jason Callahan was the Grateful Doe. Strangely, Margarita conveyed that even though her son Jason had gone missing years ago, she never filed a missing persons report. Her reasoning was that since her son had a habit of running away from home and living in different places, she could never accurately file a report with police because of jurisdiction issues. In the end, Margarita was convinced that her son indeed wanted to be missing, and that out of respect for his privacy and wishes, she resigned herself to just praying that Jason was happy and living his life the way he wanted to. But with these new revelations, Margarita immediately consented to a DNA test to compare against the Grateful Doe. On December 9th, 2015, the Grateful Doe was conclusively identified as Jason Callahan, The mysterious passenger who had tragically lost his life in an automobile accident some 20 years prior had finally been given his name back.
As is evident, those who choose to lead a nomadic lifestyle can be hard to pin down if the occasion ever calls for such a need. A free spirit doesn't always mean being free of consequences. The burden can then be shifted to those of us searching in the wind for answers. Just ask Samantha Bonnell and Jason Callahan, who on their way in and out of nameless cities, villas, and towns often pass signs and eerie reminders to question everything and trust no one. Until next time.